pregnant woman delivers a baby that looks like a unicorn. How is this even possible? To find out, watch the video to the end. But first, please subscribe to my channel and turn on notifications to get more stories like this. It all started on an unusually quiet evening at St. Clementine's Maternity Hospital. The staff was wrapping up their rounds, and the hum of medical machines provided a soothing backdrop to the muted conversations of nurses and expectant mothers. In room 207, a young woman named Elena sat propped up against the pillows of her hospital bed, clutching a plush unicorn close to her chest. She wasn't just nervous, she was terrified. Elena's pregnancy had been anything but ordinary. At first, the doctors had dismissed her concerns about strange dreams and peculiar sensations as normal pregnancy-related stress. But as the months passed, things became harder to explain. Her ultrasounds displayed baffling results, and her cravings for bizarre combinations of food, like lavender ice cream and dandelion salad, only added to the mystery. The doctors reassured her, saying that every pregnancy was unique, but Elena felt that hers was different on a level no one could quite understand. On this particular evening, the air felt heavy with anticipation. Elena's due date had passed 2 weeks earlier, and the medical team was preparing to induce labor the following morning. Despite their professional demeanor, many of the doctors and nurses couldn't hide their curiosity about her case. Whispers circulated through the hospital hallways. "Have you seen her scans? It's like nothing we've ever encountered. Maybe it's a glitch with the machines, or maybe it's something more unusual." As the clock struck midnight, Elena was jolted awake by a sharp, almost musical sound, like the chime of a bell echoing from within her. Startled, she clutched her belly and gasped. The sound wasn't painful, but it was entirely unexpected. Within moments, a wave of warmth washed over her, followed by a distinct feeling of peace. The sensation was so calming that she almost didn't notice the faint glow emanating from beneath her hospital gown. The glow grew brighter, catching the attention of her night nurse, Meredith, who rushed into the room. "Elena? Are you all right?" Meredith's voice was tinged with both concern and awe as her eyes widened at the sight of the glowing light. "What's happening?" Elena shook her head, tears streaming down her face. "I don't know, but I think it's time." Meredith wasted no time alerting the medical team. Within minutes, Elena's room was transformed into a flurry of activity. Nurses adjusted monitors, doctors donned gloves, and the head obstetrician, Dr. Grant, entered with a mixture of determination and apprehension. "Let's stay calm and focus," he instructed his team. "This may be unusual, but our priority is the health of both mother and baby." As the contractions intensified, Elena's mind raced. She clung to the plush unicorn for comfort, its soft fabric pressing against her trembling fingers. Memories of the past 9 months flooded her mind. The surreal dreams of prancing through golden fields with horned creatures, the inexplicable moments of déjà vu, and the quiet sense of wonder that had accompanied her every step. Deep down, she had always known this moment would be extraordinary. With each push, the glow surrounding her seemed to pulse in rhythm with her effort. The medical team worked tirelessly, their expressions a blend of professionalism and awe. And then, finally, the room was filled with a soft, melodic cry, an otherworldly sound that resonated with an almost magical quality. It's here," Dr. Grant said, his voice barely above a whisper. As the nurses cleaned and swaddled the newborn, the room fell into a stunned silence. The baby was unlike anything they had ever seen. Its delicate skin shimmered faintly, as if dusted with starlight, and atop its head was a small, perfectly formed horn, a pearlescent spiral that caught the light in a mesmerizing display of colors. Elena reached out, her hands trembling as she cradled her baby for the first time. Tears streamed down her cheeks as she gazed into its wide, luminescent eyes. The baby cooed softly, its presence filling the room with an undeniable sense of wonder. "She's beautiful," Elena whispered, her voice breaking with emotion. "My little miracle." The medical team exchanged glances, unsure of what to do or say. Dr. Grant cleared his throat, breaking the silence. "We'll need to run some tests to ensure the baby's health," he said gently. "But I have to admit, this is beyond anything we could have anticipated." Meredith, who had been quietly observing from the corner of the room, stepped forward. "Dr. Grant," she said softly, "I think we need to consider that this baby might be something truly unique. Perhaps even a gift." News of the extraordinary birth spread quickly through the hospital, and by morning, the story had reached the outside world. Reporters and curious onlookers gathered outside St. Clementine's, eager for any glimpse of the mother and her miraculous baby. Security was tightened, and the hospital staff worked diligently to protect Elena's privacy. Inside her room, Elena found herself grappling with a whirlwind of emotions. She felt a deep, unshakable bond with her baby, whom she had decided to name Lyra, a name inspired by the constellations she had often stared at during her sleepless nights. But alongside her overwhelming love, she also felt a pang of fear. How would the world react to Lyra's existence? Would they see her as a wonder to be celebrated, or as a curiosity to be studied? The following morning, Elena's hospital room was abuzz with activity. Doctors and nurses came in and out, some to check on her vitals and others to observe Lyra, who had become the center of attention. Cradled in Elena's arms, the baby let out soft coos, her tiny hands grasping at the air as if reaching for invisible stars. Dr. Grant entered the room with a calm yet serious demeanor, carrying a tablet filled with medical data. "Elena," he began gently, "we've run a series of tests, and I want to assure you that Lyra is perfectly healthy. Her vitals are strong, and she's responding just like any other newborn." He hesitated, his gaze shifting toward the baby's unique horn. "But, as you can imagine, there are some anomalies we've never encountered before." Elena tightened her grip on Lyra, her protective instincts kicking in. "What kind of anomalies?" Dr. Grant gestured toward the tablet. "Her DNA shows traces of something we can't entirely classify. It's human, but there are elements, let's just say, beyond our understanding. Her horn, for example, is not just a physical feature. It's composed of a material unlike anything we've seen. It's almost crystalline in structure, yet it's living tissue." Elena's mind raced as she absorbed his words. She glanced down at Lyra, who looked up at her with luminous eyes that seemed to hold a world of secrets. "What does this mean for her? Will she be okay?" Dr. Grant nodded. "As far as we can tell, she's thriving. But Elena, I need you to understand that Lyra's uniqueness will draw attention, both wanted and unwanted. The world outside is already curious, and it's only a matter of time before they demand answers." Elena's heart sank as she realized the magnitude of the situation. The reporters outside, the whispers among the hospital staff, it was all just the beginning. She had always envisioned a quiet, loving life for her child, but now that seemed impossible. Still, as she gazed at Lyra's peaceful face, she felt a surge of determination. "No matter what happens," Elena said firmly, "I'll protect her. She's my daughter, and she deserves a chance to live a happy life." Dr. Grant offered her a reassuring smile. "You're an incredible mother, Elena. Lyra is lucky to have you." Meanwhile, outside the hospital, the crowd of reporters had grown larger, their cameras and microphones ready to capture any scrap of information. Speculations ran wild, with headlines ranging from "Miracle Baby Born with Unicorn Features" to "Is this the dawn of a new evolution?" Inside, Elena began to feel the weight of the outside world pressing against her. She decided it was time to face the situation head-on. With the hospital's approval, she agreed to a controlled press conference, hoping to quell the frenzy and regain some semblance of privacy. The conference was held in the hospital's main auditorium. Elena sat on a stage, Lyra nestled in her arms, flanked by Dr. Grant and Meredith. The room was packed with journalists, their cameras flashing and their voices buzzing with questions. Elena took a deep breath, her voice steady as she addressed the crowd. "I understand that Lyra's birth has sparked a lot of curiosity, and I want to be transparent about what we know. Lyra is a healthy, happy baby, and she is my miracle. While her appearance may be unique, she is, first and foremost, a child. A child who deserves love, respect, and the chance to grow up like any other." The room fell silent as Elena's words sank in. Even the most skeptical reporters couldn't deny the raw emotion in her voice. She continued, "I ask for your understanding and compassion as we navigate this journey together. Lyra is not a spectacle or an experiment. She is my daughter, and I will do everything in my power to protect her. Elena's heartfelt plea struck a chord with many, and the media coverage began to shift. Instead of sensationalized headlines, stories emerged highlighting her bravery and the profound bond between mother and child. Support poured in from around the world. Letters, gifts, and messages of encouragement flooded the hospital. Among the letters was one that caught Elena's eye. It was from a woman named Margaret, a retired geneticist who had spent decades studying rare genetic phenomena. Margaret wrote, "Elena, I believe Lyra's uniqueness is a gift to humanity. If you ever need guidance or support, please don't hesitate to reach out." Elena decided to contact Margaret, intrigued by her expertise. Their conversation was enlightening. Margaret explained that while Lyra's features were unprecedented, they could represent a new chapter in human evolution, an evolution rooted in harmony and beauty. Lyra's horn, Margaret said, might symbolize something greater than we can imagine. Perhaps she's here to remind us of the magic we've lost. Over the weeks, Elena began to adapt to her new reality. With the hospital's help, she secured a safe and private home for her and Lyra, away from the prying eyes of the public. She also started connecting with other parents of children with unique conditions, forming a support network that provided both comfort and strength. Lyra, meanwhile, continued to thrive. Her luminous eyes sparkled with curiosity, and her coos seemed to carry a melodic quality that soothed everyone around her. Elena noticed that Lyra had an uncanny ability to bring people together. Whether it was the nurses at the hospital or the neighbors in their new community, everyone who met Lyra felt an unexplainable sense of joy. One day, while walking through the park with Lyra in her stroller, Elena encountered a group of children playing. They stopped and stared at the baby, their eyes wide with wonder. "Is she a unicorn?" one of the kids asked, his voice filled with awe. Elena smiled. "She's my little miracle." The children giggled and waved at Lyra, who responded with a happy coo. For the first time since Lyra's birth, Elena felt a glimmer of hope that the world might one day accept her daughter for who she was, a symbol of magic, love, and endless possibilities. In the weeks following her public statement, Elena's life settled into a delicate rhythm. Though the world remained fascinated by Lyra, the public's attention gradually shifted as new stories emerged in the news cycle. Elena took solace in the quieter days, focusing on bonding with her daughter and building a nurturing environment for her. Lyra's development continued to amaze Elena. Beyond her unique appearance, there was something undeniably magical about her presence. Her coos felt almost like a melody, filling their home with an inexplicable warmth. The shimmering glow on her skin remained faint but ever-present, and her horn seemed to grow slightly with each passing week, becoming more defined and radiant. Margaret, the retired geneticist, visited Elena often. She became a trusted confidant and mentor, helping Elena navigate the challenges of raising such an extraordinary child. One afternoon, as Lyra lay on a blanket in the living room, playing with her toys, Margaret leaned forward and studied her closely. "Elena," Margaret began, her tone thoughtful, "have you noticed how people react to Lyra? It's not just fascination, it's like she brings out something better in them. She reminds them of something they've forgotten." Elena nodded. "I've seen it. It's like she has this gift of making people feel connected. Even strangers seem to let their guard down around her." Margaret smiled. "It's remarkable. Lyra might be teaching us something we didn't realize we needed, a reminder of beauty, innocence, and hope." Elena often thought about Margaret's words. She began to see Lyra's impact everywhere they went. On one occasion, during a trip to the grocery store, an argument broke out between two customers over a misplaced shopping cart. As the tension escalated, Lyra let out a soft laugh from her stroller, drawing their attention. The sound was so pure and joyful that both customers paused, looked at her, and smiled sheepishly at each other. "Sorry about that," one of them said to the other. "It's not that big of a deal, is it?" Elena witnessed countless moments like this, small but powerful instances where Lyra seemed to inspire kindness and understanding. It gave her hope that her daughter's uniqueness could be a force for good in the world. As Lyra approached her first birthday, Elena decided it was time to celebrate not just her daughter's milestone, but also the community that had supported them. She organized a small gathering in the park, inviting neighbors, friends, and members of the support network she had built. Margaret helped her plan the event, ensuring it would be a joyful and inclusive occasion. The day of the celebration arrived with clear skies and a gentle breeze. The park was decorated with strings of lights, colorful balloons, and banners that read, "Happy Birthday, Lyra." Families arrived with their children, many of whom were eager to meet the baby they had heard so much about. Lyra, dressed in a pastel onesie adorned with tiny stars, sat in Elena's arms, her luminous eyes wide with wonder at the lively scene around her. As guests took turns greeting her, many remarked on the sense of calm and happiness they felt in her presence. "She's a miracle," one neighbor said, her voice filled with emotion. "I don't know what it is about her, but she makes me believe in something bigger." Elena smiled, her heart swelling with pride. "She's taught me to see the world differently. Maybe that's her gift." As the sun set and the celebration continued, Margaret took the stage to give a short speech. She spoke about Lyra's journey, Elena's courage, and the importance of embracing life's mysteries. "Lyra reminds us that the extraordinary is all around us," Margaret said. "She's a symbol of hope and love, and I believe her story has only just begun." The crowd erupted in applause, and Elena felt tears welling up in her eyes. For the first time since Lyra's birth, she felt a sense of peace and acceptance. The fears she had carried, the worry about how the world would treat her daughter, began to fade, replaced by a quiet confidence in their future. Later that evening, after the guests had left and the park had emptied, Elena sat on a blanket beneath the stars, cradling Lyra in her arms. The night was quiet, save for the gentle rustle of leaves and the occasional chirp of crickets. Lyra looked up at the sky, her eyes reflecting the starlight. "You're going to do amazing things, Lyra," Elena whispered. "I don't know what the future holds, but I know it's going to be beautiful, just like you." As if in response, Lyra let out a soft, melodic laugh, and the glow on her skin seemed to intensify for a moment, bathing them both in a warm, golden light. Elena smiled, her heart full of love and gratitude. Whatever challenges lay ahead, she knew they would face them together. As the months turned into years, Lyra continued to grow into a radiant and extraordinary child. By her second birthday, her unique features, her shimmering skin and the small, pearlescent horn on her forehead, had become an integral part of who she was. Elena marveled at how naturally Lyra carried her uniqueness, as though she had always known that she was different yet destined for something greater. Lyra's presence continued to have a profound impact on those around her. Whether it was strangers at the park, neighbors at community events, or even the delivery drivers who came to the house, everyone who encountered her seemed to leave with a lighter heart. Her laughter was a symphony of joy, her gaze a calming balm. Even those who approached her with skepticism or judgment seemed to soften in her presence, as though reminded of something precious they had long forgotten. But as much as Lyra inspired love and wonder, Elena was not naive about the challenges they faced. On more than one occasion, she overheard whispers and saw the stares of those who didn't understand. Some were awestruck, but others were wary, even fearful. It broke Elena's heart to think of the prejudice Lyra might encounter as she grew older, but she resolved to prepare her daughter to face the world with courage and grace. One day, as Elena and Lyra strolled through a bustling farmer's market, an older man approached them. He was dressed simply, with a weathered face that spoke of years of hard work, and his eyes held a mixture of curiosity and sadness. "Excuse me," he said hesitantly, his gaze fixed on Lyra. "May I ask, is she the child I've been hearing about? The one born with a gift?" Elena hesitated, unsure of the man's intentions, but she nodded. "Yes, this is Lyra. She's my daughter." The man's expression softened, and he knelt to meet Lyra's gaze. "She's beautiful," he said quietly. "She reminds me of my wife. She used to tell me stories about magical beings, creatures who could bring peace to troubled hearts. I never believed her, but seeing your daughter," his voice trailed off, and tears welled up in his eyes. Elena smiled, touched by his words. Lyra has a way of bringing out the best in people. Maybe your wife's stories weren't just stories. The man nodded, his voice thick with emotion. Thank you. Meeting her, it feels like a blessing. As Lyra grew older, her abilities began to manifest in unexpected ways. By the time she was 4, she could sense the emotions of those around her with uncanny accuracy. If someone was sad or upset, she would instinctively reach out to comfort them, her touch carrying a warmth that seemed to heal unseen wounds. Elena often watched in awe as Lyra transformed tense or somber moments into ones of connection and understanding. One evening, while Elena was reading Lyra a bedtime story, her daughter looked up at her with those luminous eyes and asked, "Mama, why do people cry?" The question caught Elena off guard. "Well, sometimes people cry because they're sad," she explained gently. "It helps them let out their feelings." Lyra tilted her head thoughtfully. "But when they're sad, I feel it too. I want to make them happy again." Elena's heart ached with both pride and concern. She knew Lyra's empathy was a gift, but she worried about the weight it placed on her young shoulders. "You have a special gift, Lyra," she said, brushing a strand of hair from her daughter's face. "But it's okay to take care of yourself too. You don't have to fix everything." Lyra nodded, though Elena could see the determination in her eyes. Even at 4 years old, Lyra had a sense of purpose that was far beyond her years. As news of Lyra's abilities spread, more and more people sought her out, not just out of curiosity, but in search of comfort and healing. Elena was cautious about who she allowed into their lives, wanting to protect Lyra from being overwhelmed. But she also recognized the profound impact her daughter was having on the world. One day, a woman named Rachel arrived at their door. She was a single mother whose young son, Ben, had been struggling with severe anxiety since the loss of his father. Rachel had heard about Lyra through a mutual acquaintance and came seeking help, though she admitted she wasn't sure what to expect. Elena welcomed Rachel and Ben into their home, and Lyra immediately ran to greet them. She held Ben's hand, her small fingers curling around his, and looked up at him with a bright, reassuring smile. "Hi, Ben," Lyra said softly. "Do you want to play?" Ben hesitated, his expression guarded, but something about Lyra's presence seemed to ease his tension. He nodded, and the two children disappeared into the living room, where they began building a tower of blocks. As Elena and Rachel watched from a distance, Rachel wiped away tears. "He hasn't smiled like that in months," she whispered. "It's like she knows exactly what he needs." Elena placed a comforting hand on Rachel's shoulder. "Lyra has a way of making people feel safe. I think she was born to help others." By the time Lyra turned 6, her story had become a source of inspiration for people far and wide. Schools invited Elena to speak about their journey, sharing lessons of acceptance, empathy, and the beauty of embracing differences. Lyra often accompanied her mother, her presence captivating audiences of all ages. At one event, a young boy in the audience raised his hand and asked, "Lyra, do you ever feel different?" Lyra smiled, her voice clear and confident. "I think everyone is different in their own way. And that's what makes us special. Being different is a good thing." The room erupted in applause, and Elena couldn't have been prouder. Her daughter was not just a miracle, she was a beacon of hope and love. As Lyra entered her school years, Elena decided it was time to enroll her in a local primary school. Though it was a small school with a strong sense of community, Elena couldn't ignore her fears about how Lyra's unique appearance might be received. Would the other children be kind? Would the parents understand? She prepared herself for every possible outcome, determined to support Lyra no matter what. On Lyra's first day of school, Elena walked her to the classroom, holding her hand tightly. Lyra, however, seemed completely unbothered, her luminous eyes wide with excitement as she took in the bright posters on the walls and the cheerful buzz of children talking and laughing. When they reached the classroom, Lyra turned to Elena and said, "Mama, it's going to be okay. I can feel it." Elena smiled, her heart swelling with pride. "You're so brave, my little star. I'll be back to pick you up after school, okay?" Lyra nodded and skipped into the classroom, her horn glinting faintly in the morning sunlight. The other children paused mid-conversation, their gazes fixed on her. There was a brief moment of silence before one boy exclaimed, "Wow, is she a unicorn?" Lyra giggled. "No, I'm Lyra. What's your name?" The boy grinned and introduced himself, and soon the entire class was gathered around Lyra, asking questions and showing her their toys. Elena watched from the doorway, tears of relief streaming down her face. Lyra's openness and charm had once again broken down barriers, and Elena knew she was going to be just fine. As the weeks went by, Lyra became a beloved member of the school community. Her classmates adored her, and even the teachers found themselves drawn to her radiant personality. But her empathy and sensitivity also brought new challenges. Lyra often came home tired, carrying the emotions of others as though they were her own. One evening, after a particularly long day, Lyra curled up on the couch next to Elena, her small frame heavy with exhaustion. "Mama," she said softly, "why do some kids feel so sad?" Elena wrapped her arms around her daughter, holding her close. "Sometimes people go through things that are hard to talk about, Lyra. But the fact that they feel safe enough to share with you is a gift." Lyra nodded, though her luminous eyes were clouded with worry. "I just want to help them." Elena kissed her forehead. "You already are, sweetheart. Just by being you." One day, during a school assembly, the principal invited Lyra to the stage. The students had been learning about kindness and empathy, and the principal wanted to recognize Lyra for embodying those values every day. "Lyra has taught us all an important lesson," the principal said, placing a hand on Lyra's shoulder. "She's shown us that being different is something to celebrate, and that kindness can make the world a better place." The room erupted in applause, and Lyra beamed, her horn catching the light as she waved to her classmates. Elena, watching from the back of the room, felt her heart swell with pride. Her daughter wasn't just thriving, she was making a difference. As Lyra grew older, her influence began to extend beyond their small community. News of her unique abilities and inspiring story reached organizations dedicated to promoting kindness and acceptance. Elena was approached by a foundation that wanted to collaborate on a children's book inspired by Lyra's journey. The book, titled Lyra's Light, told the story of a little girl with a magical horn who taught the world the importance of love and empathy. Illustrated with vibrant, whimsical artwork, it quickly became a bestseller, capturing the hearts of children and parents alike. Elena and Lyra traveled to schools and libraries across the country, sharing their story and spreading a message of acceptance. Lyra, now confident and articulate, loved answering questions from curious young readers. One day, during a book signing, a little girl approached Lyra with wide, teary eyes. "I get bullied because I'm different," she said quietly. "But you make me feel like it's okay to be me." Lyra knelt down and took the girl's hands in her own. "You're perfect just the way you are," she said gently. "Don't let anyone tell you otherwise." As Lyra entered her teenage years, she continued to inspire and connect with people from all walks of life. But with her growing influence came new challenges. Not everyone was supportive, and there were moments when Lyra faced judgment and even hostility from those who didn't understand her. One afternoon, while walking home from school, a group of teenagers began mocking her, pointing at her horn and laughing. "Hey, unicorn girl," one of them jeered. "Where's your magic wand?" Lyra paused, her cheeks flushing with embarrassment. But instead of responding with anger, she looked at them calmly and said, "I hope you find whatever makes you happy." The teenagers exchanged confused glances before slinking away, their laughter fading into the distance. Lyra sighed, her heart heavy, but as she continued walking, she reminded herself of what her mother had always told her. Kindness is the strongest magic of all. When she arrived home, Elena could tell something was wrong. "What happened, sweetheart?" she asked, pulling Lyra into a hug. Lyra explained what had happened, her voice tinged with sadness. "Why can't people just accept me for who I am?" Elena cupped her daughter's face in her hands, looking into her luminous eyes. "Because sometimes, people fear what they don't understand. But Lyra, you have a light inside you that no one can dim. Keep shining and one day, they'll see it too." Lyra's resilience and grace in the face of adversity only strengthened her determination to make the world a kinder place. By the time she graduated high school, she had already touched countless lives, proving that being different was a gift, not a burden. And as she stood on the stage at her graduation ceremony, her horn shimmering in the sunlight, Lyra delivered a speech that would be remembered for years to come. My journey hasn't always been easy, she said, her voice steady and strong. But it's taught me that love and kindness can overcome anything. We all have something unique to share with the world, and I hope you'll embrace your differences as I've embraced mine. Because together, we can make this world a brighter place. Following her inspiring graduation speech, Lyra's story gained momentum, reaching far beyond her local community. Media outlets picked up her journey, framing it as a tale of resilience, hope, and the power of embracing one's uniqueness. Though Elena had initially been hesitant about the attention, she realized the positive impact Lyra's story was having. People from all walks of life reached out, sharing how Lyra's words and actions had touched their hearts. One such message came from a woman named Clara, who ran an organization dedicated to supporting children with rare conditions. Clara invited Lyra and Elena to speak at an upcoming conference aimed at raising awareness and fostering acceptance. Despite her nerves, Lyra agreed, understanding the importance of using her voice to advocate for others. The day of the conference arrived, and the venue was packed with attendees. Parents, children, doctors, and advocates, all eager to hear Lyra's story. As she stepped onto the stage, the spotlight illuminating her shimmering horn, a hush fell over the crowd. Lyra took a deep breath, her gaze scanning the audience. When I was younger, she began, I didn't understand why I was different. Sometimes, it made me feel lonely or scared. But my mom taught me that being different isn't something to hide, it's something to celebrate. She went on to share her experiences of both joy and struggle, emphasizing the importance of kindness and empathy. We all have challenges, she said, but those challenges can make us stronger. They can help us see the beauty in others and in ourselves. By the time she finished speaking, there wasn't a dry eye in the room. The audience erupted into applause, some standing to show their appreciation. Clara approached the stage, tears streaming down her face, and hugged Lyra tightly. "You're a beacon of hope, Lyra," she said. "Thank you for sharing your light with us." After the conference, Lyra and Elena were inundated with invitations to participate in events, collaborate on projects, and share their story with broader audiences. Despite the growing demands on their time, Elena made it a priority to ensure Lyra had space to simply be a child. They balanced public appearances with quiet moments at home, where Lyra could recharge and enjoy the simple pleasures of life. One evening, as they sat on the porch watching fireflies dance in the twilight, Lyra turned to Elena and said, "Mama, do you think my light will ever go out?" Elena smiled and wrapped an arm around her daughter's shoulders. "Your light isn't something that can go out, Lyra. It's part of who you are. And as long as you keep being true to yourself, it will only grow brighter." Lyra leaned her head against her mother's shoulder, her luminous eyes reflecting the stars above. "I hope I can help more people, Mama. I want them to feel what I feel when I'm with you, safe and loved." Tears welled up in Elena's eyes as she kissed Lyra's forehead. "You already do, my little star. You already do." As Lyra entered her teenage years, her influence continued to expand. She began working with Clara's organization, helping to design programs that supported children with unique challenges. One initiative, called Light Within, encouraged children to embrace their differences and share their stories with others. Lyra became the face of the program, her image gracing posters and promotional materials that were distributed nationwide. The program was a resounding success, bringing together children from diverse backgrounds and fostering a sense of community. Lyra attended several workshops, where she met other kids who, like her, had faced bullying, isolation, or misunderstanding. She listened to their stories with compassion, offering words of encouragement and sharing her own experiences. One boy, named Max, left a particularly strong impression on Lyra. He was 8 years old and had been born with a rare skin condition that caused patches of discoloration across his body. Max had been hesitant to participate in the workshop, worried about how others might react to his appearance. But when he met Lyra, his fears began to melt away. "You're really cool," Max said shyly, his gaze fixed on Lyra's horn. "I wish I could be like you." Lyra knelt down to meet his eyes. "You're already amazing, Max. And you don't have to be like anyone else. You just have to be yourself. That's what makes you special." Max smiled for the first time that day, and by the end of the workshop, he was laughing and playing with the other kids, his confidence growing with each passing moment. Watching him, Lyra felt a deep sense of fulfillment, knowing she had made a difference. As Lyra's 16th birthday approached, Elena decided to throw a surprise party to celebrate not just her daughter's milestone, but also the incredible journey they had shared. She invited friends, family, and members of the community who had supported them over the years. The party was held in the same park where Lyra's first birthday had been celebrated, a fitting tribute to how far they had come. When Lyra arrived at the park and saw the gathering of people, her eyes lit up with joy. She hugged Elena tightly, overwhelmed by the love and support that surrounded her. The evening was filled with laughter, music, and heartfelt speeches. Margaret, the retired geneticist who had become like a grandmother to Lyra, gave a particularly moving toast. "Lyra, you are proof that the extraordinary exists within the ordinary," Margaret said, raising her glass. "You've taught us all to see the world with new eyes, and for that, we are forever grateful." As the party wound down and the stars began to twinkle overhead, Lyra sat on a blanket with Elena, reflecting on the day. "I feel so lucky, Mama," she said softly. "Not just because of today, but because of everything. Even the hard parts, they've made me stronger." Elena hugged her daughter, her heart bursting with pride. "You've given me more joy than I ever thought possible, Lyra. I'm the lucky one." As Lyra transitioned into young adulthood, her journey took on even greater significance. Her involvement in the Light Within initiative had led to partnerships with global organizations, and she had become a sought-after speaker at conferences and events. But despite her growing fame, Lyra remained grounded, her heart firmly rooted in the values her mother had instilled in her: kindness, resilience, and the importance of embracing one's uniqueness. One day, Lyra received an invitation to speak at an international summit focused on empathy and inclusion. The event was set to take place in Geneva, and the list of attendees included world leaders, activists, and influencers. The opportunity was both exciting and intimidating, but Lyra saw it as a chance to amplify her message on a global scale. As she prepared for the summit, Lyra worked closely with Elena to craft her speech. They spent countless evenings discussing the themes she wanted to address and the stories she hoped to share. For Lyra, the speech wasn't just about her journey, it was about inspiring others to see the beauty in their differences and to create a world where everyone felt valued and accepted. When the day of the summit arrived, Lyra stood backstage, her heart pounding with a mix of nerves and anticipation. Elena, sensing her daughter's anxiety, placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "You've got this, Lyra," she said, her voice steady and calm. "Just speak from your heart, like you always do." Lyra nodded, taking a deep breath. As her name was announced, she stepped onto the stage, the spotlight illuminating her horn and casting a soft glow across the room. The audience, a sea of faces from every corner of the world, watched in silence as she began to speak. "I was born different," Lyra said, her voice clear and unwavering. "And for a long time, I didn't understand what that meant. But over the years, I've learned that being different isn't something to fear, it's something to celebrate." She shared stories from her childhood, the challenges she had faced, and the moments of connection that had shaped her. She spoke about the power of empathy, the importance of kindness, and the need to create spaces where everyone felt seen and valued. "We all have something unique to offer," Lyra said, her gaze sweeping across the audience. "Our differences are what make us beautiful. And when we embrace those differences, we create a world that's not just inclusive but extraordinary." By the time she finished speaking, the audience was on its feet, their applause echoing through the hall. Lyra felt a wave of emotion wash over her, grateful for the opportunity to share her message with so many. The summit marked a turning point in Lyra's life. Her speech went viral, reaching millions of people around the world. Messages poured in from individuals who had been inspired by her words, sharing how her story had given them hope and courage. Among the messages was an invitation from the United Nations, asking Lyra to serve as a goodwill ambassador for their campaigns on inclusivity and empathy. The role was both an honor and a responsibility, and Lyra embraced it with her characteristic humility and determination. She traveled to schools, communities, and refugee camps, meeting people from all walks of life and sharing her message of love and acceptance. Through her work, she saw firsthand the impact of her words and actions, as children and adults alike found strength and inspiration in her story. One visit in particular left a lasting impression on Lyra. While touring a refugee camp in Jordan, she met a young girl named Amal, who had been displaced from her home due to conflict. Despite the hardships she had faced, Amal radiated a quiet strength and resilience that reminded Lyra of herself. As they sat together, drawing pictures in the dirt, Amal turned to Lyra and said, "Do you think I can be special too?" Lyra smiled, her eyes glistening with tears. "You have a light inside you that no one can take away." Amal's face lit up, and in that moment, Lyra felt a profound sense of purpose. She realized that her journey wasn't just about her. It was about empowering others to see the beauty within themselves. Back at home, Elena watched with pride as Lyra continued to make a difference in the world. But as much as Lyra's work brought joy and inspiration to others, it also took a toll on her emotionally and physically. The weight of her responsibilities and the constant demands on her time left her feeling drained, and Elena worried about her daughter's well-being. One evening, as they sat together in the living room, Elena voiced her concerns. "Lyra, you've been doing so much for others, but I want to make sure you're taking care of yourself too." Lyra nodded, her expression thoughtful. "I know, Mama. Sometimes it feels like there's so much to do, and I don't want to let anyone down." Elena placed a hand on her daughter's cheek, her gaze filled with love. "You've already done so much, sweetheart. It's okay to take a step back and rest. The world needs your light, but it also needs you to be healthy and happy." Lyra hugged her mother tightly, her heart filled with gratitude. "Thank you, Mama. I'll try to find more balance." In the years that followed, Lyra continued to shine her light in ways big and small. She pursued her education, studied social work, and eventually started her own foundation dedicated to promoting empathy and inclusivity. The foundation, aptly named Lyra's Light, became a beacon of hope for people around the world, offering resources, support, and inspiration to those in need. Through her work, Lyra demonstrated that being different wasn't a limitation, it was a gift. And as she grew older, she remained true to the values that had guided her since childhood, always striving to make the world a kinder and more accepting place. Elena, now retired, watched with pride as her daughter continued to impact lives, knowing that Lyra's journey was just the beginning of something extraordinary.